it's difficult for people to come and seek food assistance. And, right now we're seeing more and more new people who've never received food through our programs before. And some who say it took me 3 months to get here.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry. I only need it this one time. But having that reassuring, the friendly person directing traffic and the smiley person and the kind person doing the check-in, I think helps reassure the people that we're serving. Welcome back to 50 Faces of Feeding South Dakota. We're so excited for today's episode because we get to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is volunteers. Volunteer Appreciation Month is in April. And even though we're at the end of March, we're going to kick it off today by sharing a little bit about our volunteer program, how it came to be, before we get into a whole month of featuring volunteers that are helping our mission across the state. With me today is Jennifer Stensaas, our Community Engagement Manager. Thanks for coming, Jennifer.
Thanks for inviting me.
You're always welcome.
So it's time.
For what?
Before we get started, it's time for the gift.
Before we get started?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Well, why don't you introduce yourself first? So maybe there's a little context. I don't know.
I'm Jennifer Stensaas, and I'm the Community Engagement Manager for Feeding South Dakota, and I oversee our statewide volunteer program. So volunteering is pretty special to me. I've probably was the first to start tracking volunteer hours a long time ago.
But you also oversee food drives and food and fundraisers and all it's bigger than volunteers, a huge piece of it. Right. But you're also engaging in communities with schools and all that want to help the mission with food drives.
Well, I think there's so many ways to give back. There's so many ways to volunteer. It's not just your hands here in the building or on our mobile distributions, but it's advocacy. It's food and fun drives. It's all of the things put together. So.
Okay, so we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Let's get this it's time out of the way.
I'm so proud of you for starting this podcast.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's really fun. And we're celebrating 50 years of Feeding South Dakota.
50 years.
So I have a gift.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I had to open it during the podcast.
Yes.
Oh boy. What is this? Oh, stop. It's my own little bobblehead.
Well, for every podcast, everybody has to have their own bobblehead.
I love it.
So this is your first podcast.
Look at you. I've got red heels on.
Yes, there's red heels in there. And
oh my gosh.
I mean, your glasses aren't red today, but I feel like I've seen red glasses before. Check out your hair.
Yeah, my hair is pretty awesome. Well,
but look what's in her hand though too.
The joke has been watching the evolution of my hair through this podcast because it's been different. Oh, she's got a mic in her hand.
Yep.
That's really awesome. I love the leopard print. She's got a little necklace on. Oh man.
You're all set.
I love it. This is so nice.
I mean, she's been to DC in that outfit. She will go back.
Oh, wow.
Take her to DC with you next
time. All right,
I
will do that. Well, thank you very much. Received a gift. I mean, not that I expected to, but This is pretty cool.
Well, this is a pretty big venture that you're doing, I think.
It is.
So I want to celebrate your first podcast.
Well, thank you. And this is why I invited you on here, because you're just the sweetest person. But you are. So you've talked a little bit about what you do, but you've been with Feeding South Dakota for just a little while.
A little while.
You want to talk a little bit about your history here?
Yeah. Well, before I worked for Feeding South Dakota, I worked for my parents for about 11 years right out of college. And it wasn't probably where I felt like I was needed most. I always thought that if life ever gave me a do-over, what I really wanted to do was help people. And I just didn't know exactly what that meant until the time came for me to start a new adventure. And I really was just looking on KeloLand and applying for jobs. And I saw the Community Food Banks of South Dakota. Had no idea what a food bank was, no idea what they did. And so I applied to be the administrative assistant for Matt Gasson at the time, which is kind of a funny story because at that time I was 5 months pregnant and wasn't telling anybody.
Oh gosh.
Because you think about it, like who wants to hire somebody
who's going to go on maternity leave?
They're going to have a little bit of a leave, and so I hid it pretty well. And on that first day, I showed up for work in full-on maternity clothes because I was so tired of my belly. I'm like, here we are. And he looked at me and he's like, I think I missed something.
It's not a question you can ask during an interview.
No, it's not. So I had a couple of different interview shirts, and I did them in the morning because I blew up in the afternoon. And anyway,
You had this down.
I did. But it was, he says that's probably the best hire we ever made. And we kicked it off from there. And we worked together for 13 years. But in all of these years, and that was in 2008. So during 17 years this year, I've had a lot of opportunity to grow and change with the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And really every next position was created with me in mind to take that on as a next challenge, depending on where we were growing and where we were headed. Just took on the challenge and we went with it, and probably wasn't the best at any of it, but gave it a good shot.
But you've told me you love what you're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just really feel like this is exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Yes, it is. I think even back then we were first starting to collect volunteer data, and I oversaw the backpack program. So that's really where I got to learn our very first volunteers. And as that program grew and grew and grew, and quickly, I just built those relationships over the years. I did that for a while, and then moved into development for a while, whether that was working with donors or writing grants. Not my favorite. Processing gifts from all of our donors across the state, doing a little bit of marketing communications, but it all kind of brought me to here today.
Built a skill set that brought you in. Like you still make an ask when it comes to volunteering.
Oh, absolutely.
You still market the brand, still communicate the mission. So I can see how that all would come together. You and I traveled. We spent some time in the car going across the state and back. 1 month.
We should do it again.
We should, but I learned so much from you in that travel. And I think the thing that really stuck with me that I found so surprising is that we haven't always had a volunteer program here at Feeding South Dakota. So talk a little bit about that. What were things like before a volunteer program, or how did this program come to be?
Right. Well, our first volunteer were really backpack program volunteers. And we packed backpacks once a week on Wednesday evening. And then we had senior box volunteers where we packed senior boxes one Saturday a month. So there wasn't a lot of opportunities there, but we did have volunteers at our food pantry downtown that helped us stock the shelves. We had some volunteers that helped us pick agency orders in our warehouse. But really there was always a thought that, we look volunteerism as a whole, and how do we make use of our volunteers more than just helping with their hands. And I would say years ago it was, this is their volunteer commitment, that's all there is to it. We don't push them to go other places or to maybe becoming a donor. So I think probably it was before COVID really that volunteerism grew. And then once COVID started, it was just full on.
It really.
And that was the first time we had a statewide volunteer coordinator that was really trying to fill all of the shifts that we had in Rapid City and in Sioux Falls and in Pierre as well.
So a couple things. First of all, when we had some backpacks on Wednesdays and senior boxes, was it the same in Rapid City and Pierre, or was everybody just kind of doing their own thing, bringing them in when they needed them?
Everybody was kind of doing their own thing. Okay. And backpacks was just so special and different just because everybody wanted to do backpacks.
Child hunger resonated.
It did. And, just the thought of children not having access to food is just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And especially when our program grew mostly in Sioux Falls, you would be on a wait list for a year to get into pack backpacks. And then we kept growing and growing that we couldn't do all of them in one evening anymore. There were nights that we were here for 3 or 4 hours packing backpacks, so we started splitting the shifts and kind of, there were some that volunteered on a very regular basis, but what we also realized is that limited the exposure for other organizations to be able to come in and volunteer their time and experience the program. So, we would actually just open it up. It was a wait list, first come, first serve. It would fill up right away, and then we were back on a wait list again. Yeah. So, but I think the interesting part, yes, and everybody was doing their own thing. Pierre, we didn't have backpacks in Pierre till summer months a few years ago. Okay. So, but everybody's trying to kind of run their own. And we realized that there was standardization that just needed to happen so that we could recognize them equally and build those relationships with them.
But even just from like a risk standpoint, because having somebody come and volunteer, there's lots of components to that.
Mhm.
And we'll get into building that out a little bit. But the second thing that you said is that really it was during COVID that the need for volunteers came. And I've talked often about our mobile distribution program and how that really, while there were some happening, that really took off. Oh, she fell over. That really took off during COVID. So was that a driving factor, or was it the larger people being served, the larger amount of food, maybe all of it?
Yeah, well, when COVID started, we had our food pantries here in Sioux Falls and in Rapid City. So we had a food pantry in our or in or near our facilities. But in March of that 2020, and kind of the world kind of shut down, as we said, there were no more pantries because we couldn't serve that amount of people safely and efficiently for the mass amounts of people that needed assistance. And so we had a mobile distribution program to some degree in Rapid City. When they had moved into the newer facility that we had, they left an area of Rapid City where the need was really the highest. And so we started a mobile distribution at General Beetle. And so we didn't want people to feel like we were leaving them behind. So we kept that mobile distribution. But when COVID started, and we did have a neighborhood program, I should say, as well, where we were in different neighborhoods. We kind of had to stop that because we were overloading the neighborhoods. There were so many people coming to us. So we started community-wide distribution centers or distributions in at the fairgrounds in Rapid City. And then we did the same thing here in Sioux Falls then. And so once or twice a week, we did mobile distributions at those central places. People could visit us every other week and receive food assistance. And we did that for probably 5 or 6 months. So interesting, though, during that time is when we had so many volunteers come that wanted to help. So even though we're all told to stay away, we were so grateful for the communities for stepping up and community leaders to kind of lead that effort to get us more volunteers that we needed. So it was kind of the ministerial societies that really dug in and helped us out. But the bigger part of that was that we never had to produce that much food before either. So we went from stocking shelves to we were building boxes every day, all day long.
Yes. And you say boxes, but it was a non-perishable box. It was a frozen refrigerated box. And then the fresh produce. And when I started in 2022, I remember you saying, because then we had really started tracking the number of people and families we were serving through these mobiles. And I remember you saying to me, like month over month, that we were having an increase, and we still are that way 3 years later. But an increase is in one way great because we're serving people who have a need for food assistance. But in the other way, it's more boxes to pack, and that takes more people and more effort, right?
Well, it was more boxes to pack, and it was, with that staff there, but it was also more volunteers to load vehicles. And so there were so many new volunteer opportunities that transpired because of COVID. And so many more people were able to get involved and to help. And those volunteers that were helping during that time, I mean, they were the most dedicated because they saw the issue and they knew that we needed their help, and they all came time after time.
And it's physical. Being a volunteer to mobile distribution, I mean, you're walking car to car and checking people in. So you have to have that mobility, or you're loading food into vehicles. So you're carrying those boxes, loading them up for people. At a couple sites, there's our greeters and our social people, right? Maybe they're directing traffic.
We found new ways to volunteer.
Yeah,
Honestly,
exactly.
It was just people having smiling faces and just being that sense of assurance that it's going to be okay.
Yeah, and right. And during COVID, that also comes into today because it's difficult for people to come and seek food assistance. And, right now we're seeing more and more new people who've never received food through our programs before. And some who say it took me 3 months to get here. Or I'm sorry, I only need it this one time. But having that reassuring, the friendly person directing traffic and the smiley person and the kind person doing the check-in, I think helps reassure
Yeah.
the people that we're serving.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't all smiley days. Those were really hard days, and it wore everybody out. And just the physical aspect of it, even packing boxes was very physical. And it took us kind of years to get to a place where for a while, we were burning volunteers out too. The work is hard when you're lifting boxes and lifting product, just to even put in the boxes. So I think we've kind of perfected a system where we're kind of maintaining the production of what we have.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about how you came to that place. So we're in COVID. It's mass chaos. I mean, you know, staff members were located in different buildings, and there was all this management to happen, and everybody was in mass chaos, just trying to figure out how do we continue to do what we need. And this service was really needed at that time. So this volunteer program just kind of grows out of that. And then, you know, things start to get a little bit better with COVID. Some of the restrictions are lifted. We start to look at our method of operation going forward. So then how did that volunteer program evolve?
Well, coming back together in our buildings was wonderful to be able to kind of centralize things back to where it started. And it really, at that point, was figuring out, where do we go from here? This is where we've been, and we can't sustain that forever. So now where do we go? And that was really taking a look at the mobile distribution program that we had and perfecting it, and going to places outside of just Sioux Falls and outside of just Rapid City, because that mobile program started really in central South Dakota. So how do we expand it and have, at that time, our terms even were equitable access. So that was kind of the solution to figuring out, you know, hunger exists more than just Sioux Falls.
Right.
So how do we get to Watertown? How do we get to
Lemon, South Dakota.
Lemon?
Yeah.
You know, we talk about Lemon a lot, being, you know, so far up northwest, but and so picked at that time where we knew that we had more work to do in certain counties. I won't get into the details of the whole Red Green County thing.
Yeah.
But really looking to see where our services were most needed, and looking for partners in those communities that could help us do those mobile distributions. So it brought on still more work, but I think that we were more equitable in that sense, and we found our kind of steady pace for the last few years.
Yeah, that you pack this many boxes, this many go out.
Yep.
And then there you kind of have this handoff. And I, you know, having talked with volunteers and been at mobile distributions with volunteers, they really own that program when it's in their community. I mean, they know the people in line in a way that if somebody doesn't show up, they are like, oh, Sarah wasn't here. I wonder what's going on. I should give her a call, make sure everything's okay. They are, you know, just so kind and compassionate, and they come from within the volunteers come from within the community. I mean, I've been to one, I'm not gonna remember what town it was, where the senior officers, class officers, get to leave school for the mobile distribution, and they're the ones loading boxes into vehicles. And I just thought that was such a great way to incentivize. I mean, who doesn't want to leave school for a little bit? but they're giving back, and they're seeing what the need looks like month after month.
Well, I think it's really been great to watch the rural communities come together and help their community. And they do take a lot of ownership into it, and we appreciate that, because this work could not happen without any one of them.
Yeah.
And so with operating over 100 mobiles every month, without those feet on the ground to tell us where to be and to get the word out of where we are going to be, and then finding the volunteers to do it. And sometimes volunteers are those who are in need of assistance. They're doing both. And so high schoolers are great, because it's a little bit easier in the rural areas to get them out there, but it's great that those young kids are learning to take care of their community. We all know they need volunteer service hours for classes anyways, and so the schools have been so great to understand that and give back in that way.
So was having volunteers in the community a requirement for bringing a mobile distribution there?
Most times. Okay. I said there are some places where it is a little bit more of a challenge to get the volunteer support. So we're looking at high schools and churches and community organizations and civic groups. What businesses can we grab a few employees from for a few hours once a month? Right. So the commitment isn't a lot, but we're taking them away from other priorities too. So.
Well, there's a couple interviews with some volunteers coming up who've volunteered at mobiles, And then they go to the next mobile and the next mobile because they know that the volunteers are needed and they're enjoying the work while also getting to help.
Right.
And I think that way back at the beginning of our time together, you said that, you kind of felt this pull to do something to help people. And that has just really stuck with me and resonated because I tell people often there's not a single person in this organization who doesn't have a passion for our mission. Like you can see it, you can feel it, but that extends so easily to our volunteers. And as I've been talking with volunteers, even just going down to a pack line and just, kind of visiting a little bit, everybody's here for the right reason. They're here because they want to make an impact.
Oh, yeah. And so many of our regulars, they're so great because they just say, tell me what you need. We're afraid to sometimes ask for certain, I've got this thing that I really need you to do. And they're like, we're just here to help. So whatever it is, whether it's, sorting stinky potatoes.
I was just going to say, like, it's not all glamorous.
It's not.
And we've shifted. So right now, when you sign up to volunteer, you're just signing up for a shift. You had told me that originally you did it by program. So they could pick a shift for backpacks or senior boxes or mobile, but everybody wanted to do the backpacks.
Right.
And then it became hard to recruit for the other shifts.
Yep. So I don't remember when it was pretty early on in 2020 when we realized that it was going to be hard to get people to do kind of monotonous tasks that we needed. But so we went away from programmatic volunteers too. It's just kind of a blind bag surprise is what I call it, because you never really know what you're going to do.
What the greatest need is at the time.
So we've really worked hard with our operations team, and I think we're married really well to understand the needs of the operations team, and they understand our role and what we play into getting them the help they need to get the work done.
So we talked about volunteers having the best experience, and I think that's really, really important. And really what I feel has bloomed in the last year is that volunteer stewardship and appreciation program. And one of the things is T-shirts we've been giving. So when somebody volunteers 10 hours or more, they get every year, once a year, during Volunteer Appreciation Month, they get a T-shirt.
Yes.
And they look different every year. And from the marketing side, we've tried really hard to make sure that they're specific to volunteers. The staff don't get them. Only the volunteers get them. And so it makes it a lot more special. But what are some other things that your team does through their work that is volunteer stewardship and appreciation?
I think that, from time to time, we'll do cards, throughout the year to those who are probably some of the most regular and that have been so supportive of the work and understand it. What else do we do? We've got a fun month in April of some things that we're doing, but I think it's just having conversations because so many times we've tried to appreciate in certain ways that really aren't appreciated. And when I say that, I mean finding gifts or appreciating them with this other new thing,
right? Because that's not what they want.
That's not what they
don't want us to spend. They want us to spend money to fight hunger, not spend money on little tchotchke things.
Right. And so really that's where, you're spending your money on T-shirts for us. So everybody wants the T-shirt. If that's the one thing that we were doing well as far as appreciating and then they loved it, it's the T-shirt.
Yeah.
I think we had requests this year for 650-ish. So we'll see.
That's a lot of T-shirts.
We have 500. We'll see how we do. It's a lot of T-shirts, but I think it serves lots of purposes. Especially when you're thinking of the mobile distributions in rural areas and showing that the work that Feeding South Dakota is doing in those communities, not to, overstep where other community partners are doing work, but in partnership with them and realizing that Feeding South Dakota is the mobile distribution and this is how we come together. So having our name out there to just show that work, I think has made all the difference for people understanding that there's a need to fill.
And it's one thing to be able to provide some treats or some conversation and connection in the distribution centers, but really that broader reach out into the rural communities where the mobiles are, and being able to have those special, ways to recognize and acknowledge. And one of the things we started is a volunteer story on social media. About every week, we try to feature, a group that came in or somebody, especially during Volunteer Appreciation Month, just to share that, and recognize that they're part of this work.
Right. I think that sharing those groups of volunteers that are coming in and kind of reminding folks, hey, if your employer gives you some time to volunteer during the week, we would love it to have you here and spend your time here. We know that there are so many amazing nonprofits doing great work in the community, and we never take that for granted that they chose Feeding South Dakota to spend some of their time at and to help us out.
So groups are a big thing to have come in, and I love it when we have, we've had Black Hills Energy over in Rapid City. We had Wells Fargo. We've had Midco. I mean, just to name a few, and these are popping up in my mind because they'll come often in their logo wear. And so it's really kind of cool to see that sea of people, and they get quite competitive as well, especially if they have more than one shift. But that too was a challenge for a while because you talked about packing backpacks on Wednesday nights originally and senior boxes on Saturdays. And now a majority of our shifts are during the day with a few evening shifts in a month. And so how has that transition gone?
I think it's gone amazingly well. We do only have a few shifts during the evening. It's on the second and fourth Wednesdays of each month in Sioux Falls and in Rapid City. And then here slightly different. Most of theirs are Tuesdays and Thursdays. But it's opened up opportunities for families that can't come during the day, or other businesses that just they can't afford to take half their staff out to come and volunteer. I wish we could do more. I think if there was one request, I think there would be more evening shifts, more evening opportunities. But with the way we're currently structured staff-wise and with our mobile distribution programs, it's not an option at the moment, but I think something we could hopefully continue to work towards.
Because I would guess that those evening shifts, much like originally, they fill up quickly.
They do. Yeah. And there's some that like to come a lot, and so it's nice to be able to have that opportunity just to show, just to give to others who can't come during the day. And we certainly appreciate, that's something I should do. I should find all of those employers that give that time to their employees to go volunteer and thank them, thanking them for letting them go for a few hours and helping us. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Well, and it is, I mean, that is something that's become more popular as a benefit that employers often offer, but it really just, I think, immerses people in that community, in that impact. And those organizations that are offering that are very community minded. That's very important to them, that their team understands the picture of need in South Dakota. So what do you think has been your worst volunteer shift? Like, not like your worst thing to do as a volunteer. I mean, you mentioned potatoes. We can often tell when there's bananas in the house. You walk in the morning and there's bananas. Potatoes are kind of like that too. But what do you think has been in a funny way, the most challenging?
So we had some milk that we had to dispose of, and they were in cartons, like little single serve cartons, chocolate milk, and we'd get it in time enough to get it out in time. So there was a very short turnaround. And so that was an opportunity for a few shifts where we had to just sit at the drain in the maintenance room. So people sitting on buckets down around this drain, opening up cartons of chocolate milk and
pouring it out.
Well, we had this very fun group of kids that helped us out one day, and we went in and there was chocolate milk everywhere. Oh yeah, chocolate milk everywhere. And then another good one would be, we had another fun group. I love those kids.
I think you mean that.
I do.
Okay, I'm just checking. Just making sure it wasn't sarcastic.
No, but they had fun doing this next one too. We had to get rid of a lot of produce that had also a short time on it, and so it was a matter of just dumping it into the garbage garbage compactor. Well, they threw it into the garbage compactor, so they were having contests and throwing rotten food into the compactor. So Jennifer had a lot of cleaning up to do after that episode. So, because again, we value our relationships with our team.
Fun, but it's
super fun.
But this is the point. Like, the volunteer shifts can be a lot of fun. I mean,
fun.
I should ask you, who gets to pick the music?
we offered up to the volunteers, honestly.
Yeah.
There was one night where I asked what the requests were, and they wanted is it Dolly Parton all night long? Oh, it was something all night. Yeah.
Typically, it's sing-along.
Yeah.
They like to kind of, upbeat, sing-along.
Yes.
Those classics.
They're in Rapid City. I know that there's one particular radio station that they all love to listen to.
Yep.
And in Sioux Falls, I know Alyssa at times, she gets pretty creative when she knows what the work is that needs to be done, or there's a special call out. I know there was something with fruit one time, so she built a playlist of all different types of songs and
Fruit.
about fruit.
Well, there we go.
I think Raspberry Beret was in there with Prince. You know.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So she gets
A
pretty.
plus for effort.
I know.
Yeah.
She goes over and above. But yeah, we'll do playlists.
So you've talked about regulars, and we do have volunteers who are in weekly, multiple times a week. They actually, kind of serve as a lead volunteer almost on the line. Like they know they've done it. They get it. So much so to the point where they understand even the cadence of food being received in.
Yep.
They'll say, "Oh, usually we have potatoes by the third week of the month. Where are the right?" But and it's such a great way for them to give, and a lot of them have shared that they're retired and they wanted to stay active. They liked to work. They wanted to keep working. But there's also another group that you've been working on building out that is called a Helping Hands group. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Well, I think there's always be times when something happens that you weren't expecting, right? And so we learn to pivot in different ways. And so we created a Helping Hands group where in the event something happens and we need to add another shift, or we've got this other project that now takes precedence over this other project, but that needs to get done on too. And so we put a call out to the Helping Hands group that we've got one in Rapid and one in Sioux Falls and one in Pierre. And those are really kind of that core group of people that say to us, just let me know when you need me.
Right.
They've got a bit more of a flexible schedule that we can accommodate mostly during the daytime. A lot of retired people, maybe there's some stay-at-home moms, maybe there's some college kids that have time during the week that they can give. So it's really built of, lots of different people that can come kind of on a moment's notice.
And they don't have to come every time they're asked, but they're just sort of that go-to group. And then you mentioned kids and college kids, but more in particular today, we had some young little whippersnappers down on the packing line, and it's spring break for some schools.
Oh, yeah.
And so we have done the Bring a Child to Serve Day during Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Which is a really great day because our minimum age to volunteer is 11.
Right.
And so I know that.
And it drops it down to 5.
It does.
Yeah.
So kind of work in an opportunity that is a little more safe. We kind of shut down other areas of the facility that could be more dangerous, but letting families, giving them an opportunity to volunteer together, because really that's another huge request. How can my family help?
Yeah.
How can we all come together? So that's what a great day that is to get younger volunteers.
And I've spoken to a young man who his mom said, "What do you want to do for your birthday?" And he said, "Well, let's go see what this Feeding South Dakota thing is all about." And he keeps coming back. He just really enjoyed it. He really loved it. He said he's a gamer, and it just is nice to have a break from the gaming and come and do something productive. And then last year, he actually ended up being at our Thanksgiving distribution and helping to load cars at our Thanksgiving distribution. So
we had a birthday party here last week.
Oh, you did?
We did. On Thursday,
How
we had
old?
they were probably like 11 and 12 and 13.
Yeah.
Probably earlier. Yeah, it was her birthday, and she wanted to bring her friends, and they were on break, and so that was her birthday party.
That was her birthday party. That's pretty cool.
That was pretty cool.
So there, I guess I say that because there are many ways people can get involved, and sometimes people who can't stand for a whole shift can sit at a table and put together netting for when we need it for produce, or there's a variety of different things, and we keep expanding that. So we're diving into some new opportunities. What do those look like?
Yep. Well, I think we've always tried to keep our ears open. What are the needs of the organization? How does operations need more assistance in doing specific tasks? But also administratively, what are other departments need? Accounting, could they use some additional help? Gifts processing, what could we get volunteers to do for them? And even our community partnership program, how can we get volunteers to help seniors who might be eligible for the senior box program? So really visiting with each department and just keeping your eyes open to what can I have a volunteer do that free ups my time to do something else that needs to be done as well. And then finding the right fit. Is this person, skilled with computers, or is it something, maybe it's writing thank you cards or stuffing envelopes. So finding what their skill sets are, what they're really passionate about, and getting them paired up to an opportunity that we have a need for.
So one of my favorite stories that I like to share about this expansion of volunteer opportunities is that there was a gentleman who came in, and some of the shifts that we offer up cover our administrative associate at the front desk. So answering phones, greeting and helping volunteers when they come in for shift. And so when somebody new volunteers to cover her, they come in ahead of time, spend some time with her, learn how to operate everything. And this gentleman shared that he had been a regular volunteer in the distribution center, but due to a medical issue, he couldn't do the physical work. And he was so grateful that this administrative position opened up because he wanted to continue to support Feeding South Dakota. And this allowed him to do that because he could, sit at a desk and answer the phones. And it was something he was absolutely happy to do.
A success story.
It's a success story, but I think it's just so great. We've got Class A drivers that are volunteers. We've got people that will pull inventory in the warehouse. I mean, it just really having our eyes open to all the different ways. And actually in 2024, get this right, the number of hours given to Feeding South Dakota in our fiscal year by volunteers equated to just right at 28 FTE. And
can you imagine?
No, I can't. And when I talk about our volunteer program and share that with people, they're just as blown away about it as we are, because that's a lot. And nonprofit, organizations can't support that level of team members. But with a continuous increase in program usage, there's more food being brought in, there's more boxes being packed, more backpacks being packed, more food being sorted from food and fun drives. But, if it weren't for the volunteers and the efficiencies that have been built through this program, we wouldn't be able to keep up. I mean, we'd still be doing the work, but not, I don't think, to the level that we're able to do it today.
Yeah, I think we've got people thinking outside the box and understanding how important the volunteer workforce is to the organization. If I don't know what we would do if we didn't have there's over 8,000 unique volunteers that have volunteered with us in just the past year alone.
Wow.
And they all bring a different skill set to the table, and there's skill sets in there yet to be identified. And so it's great to hear success stories of someone saying, I won't be able to come back and volunteer anymore because I can't do the physical work. But there's other opportunities that we could potentially partner him up with. Yeah. So I love to hear that, and I love to. Well, your husband volunteers as a driver.
Yep. Yeah.
He was the first.
He took one trip to Rapid City and back, and he got a T-shirt. He was thrilled.
Well, he's over 10 hours.
He was. He was like, huh.
Those T-shirts, I tell you. I mean, everybody wants a T-shirt. Yeah. So, but I think adding the drivers, volunteer opportunity has been huge.
And we have a backpack driver in Sioux Falls, somebody that comes in and delivers.
He goes with our driver and helps because it's a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And we've been very, very fortunate to have a good crew of people that just appreciate the physicalness of it because it's not for everybody and it's hard work.
Many of our volunteers say they don't have to go to the gym that day.
They use it as their workout.
Yeah.
When I said we kind of leveled off, we figured out what our production needs are and what it takes to get there. So how many volunteers and how long are their shifts? And our regular volunteers, there were some that had a real struggle going from that 3-hour shift, which was a lot for some people physically, to a 2-hour shift. We didn't need the full 3 hours anymore, but they really wanted that workout. So it's like, I felt like I was failing them to some degree, but
I've been down there too when groups will say, when we were doing 3-hour shifts, we don't need a break. We just want to keep going. And our ops team would say, no, we need you to take a break because we have to restock the food. So coming to a 2-hour shift has helped with that too. People want to they're getting a cadence and they just want to keep going.
Yeah. Let's just knock it out and get done for the day. And we do need a break. I think that's hard for people to understand, that it's hard for us sometimes to keep up with them because we've gotten so efficient and everybody knows what to do. And we try not to get into that competitive nature. Some groups come in and they're like, well, who do we have to beat?
You're like, just slow down.
No.
It's quality or quantity over
Quality.
or quality over quantity.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because you get going too fast and things don't happen exactly the way we want them to. But we do appreciate the competitiveness of some of our
It is fun. Sometimes you'll just hear this loud cheering when one group beats another group that was there in the morning or something like that.
Maybe we can offer like a competition night where it was a little bit more controlled. We could probably figure that out.
I don't think you should have tossed that out there now. Somebody's going to want to get going on that.
Yeah, I'm thinking a few people just told me to be quiet.
They probably did. They're saying, I can't believe she said that.
I can't believe she said
well,
that.
you deserve huge props for what you've done to, to build out this program. And I know there's still things that
lots of dreams that we have.
Yes, lots to do yet. Mm-hmm. But overall, I hope that our volunteers feel that appreciation and that pride of doing a good thing when they come in here and do the work for us. So before I let you go, I have one question for you.
Yep.
If South Dakota were a fruit or a vegetable, what would it be and why?
Oh, I know people that would answer this question in certain ways that are more creative than me. Oh my goodness. Fruit or a vegetable? Mm-hmm. I should have, I didn't study for that.
That's the point.
I mean, potatoes first. Oh. I know.
Yeah, no.
But I mean, potatoes come to mind because I think it's such a, it's a staple, right? I mean, every week we get potatoes, apples, onions, but we also benefit from great TFAP commodity with grapes, oranges maybe,
tangerines,
plums I've seen. But we just benefit from so much great produce that comes into our state through various different programs. And not all of it's glamorous, but we want to make sure that we're getting that food and that it's good and quality to be passed along. But potatoes has been that staple. I think we started with potatoes. I just remember
in Rapid City, they had potato drives, 100 pounds of potatoes being loaded into people's cars, and they lined up down the road for it.
I think that community of Lemon pops to my mind again, where I remember old pictures, old. If Matt Gasson's watching this episode, I know. But pictures of like a potato drop, like they would take a whole load of potatoes into a community, and like you get your 100 pounds of potatoes, or hope But I mean, it kind of goes back to just being able to share that abundance with others, and even if it's a load of potatoes, we were able to help. I don't know.
That's a good answer.
I'll think about it.
Nobody said potato yet. So
are you asking this question to everybody?
Don't tip anybody off though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But then I'll have volunteers that say, "Oh God, I can't believe she said that. They're so stinky."
I doubt they
Sometimes
will.
there's stinky ones in there.
I doubt they will. Well,
we'll call this episode the Stinky Potato.
The Stinky Potato episode. I don't know how well that'll do. We could think about it, but well, thank you so much for joining our Stinky Potato episode and joining the conversation with Jennifer Stensaas about our volunteers. If you're watching and you're a volunteer, I just want to say thank you on behalf of our team, on behalf of our board, and the people that we serve. We know that this work is possible because of the time that you're giving to Feeding South Dakota. If you haven't volunteered yet, check out our website. There's a lot of information on how to volunteer, all the different ways, and the times are out there. And we encourage you to come on down. Come meet Jennifer, meet our volunteer coordinators, our volunteer liaisons, listen to some great music, and just be in fellowship with people in the fight to end hunger. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned. The next several weeks, we're going to talk with volunteers about the work that they're doing and how that has been a personal impact to them.